How you going, guys? As you can see behind me, it's pretty frozen and frosty out, so we're not doing a whole lot of roofing today, so I figured I'd do some tool maintenance, and I thought that I could show you guys some of our basic hand tools and kind of explain what they're used for. So to start off, all of my tools, most of my tools are from Malco, so Malco, if you're watching this, hit your boy up. To start off, we've got our aviation snips. So these are just our straight cut aviation snips. These are reds and greens, which are lefts and rights. You can see right there the little L. You can see right there, little right. So doesn't mean that these snips are left or right handed. It just means that they cut on the left or right side of the material. So like with the reds, they cut on the left side, which means that you get a good cut on the left side of your material. The greens, the opposite. We use these quite often, but only for cuts that are about as deep as the snips, because you can't actually go much further without using another snip to relieve the cut, because the material ends up hitting the top of that right there. So to remedy that, we have offsets. I have 90-degree offsets, so they look a little funny, but I prefer the 90-degree offsets. I feel like they're just a lot easier to use, and they're quite nice when you got to get into tight spaces. So it's the same deal. Lefts, rights, reds, greens. They're quite good. These ones we use for longer cuts, so they're just like the reds and greens, but we use these for if we're doing a long straight cut, long curve cuts, anything that we need to do a longer cut than the teeth are. Because if you look at the jaws there, you can see that it actually goes past the snip there, so when you cut the material it doesn't get in the way. Other than that, we've got these yellow Malco Max 2000s. So these are straight cuts. These are not just straight cuts, but they're center cuts. What they do is they cut the center of the material out, if you can see that in there. So material goes in there, cuts out the middle, gives you a good cut on both sides. These are really great for long straight cuts, or straight cuts in tight spaces, like when we do our ribs. They're quite good if we got to cut down the middle of a rib, because they fit right nicely in there. So those are quite good for that. We've got our crimpers, so we use these for duct work. So if we're putting in a roof vent or a dryer vent or any kind of venting and it needs to connect to an HVAC system, we use these to just crimp the material to get it in there. Yeah, these are quite good. We've got our wides, or our vice grips. These are just straight standard vice grips. I've cut a 45-degree mitre on both sides of mine because it makes it a lot easier if you've got to do like dog ears in our Endam video that you can probably watch. You'll see that I use these quite often to get that nice fold around the corner. You use these for standing seams, anything like that. It gives you a good 45-degree fold without having to measure anything, which is quite nice. We've got our 3-inch seamers, also by Malco. We use these for folding things, seaming things. They're quite good. Like in our gable video, you'll see I use these quite often. They're good for squashing two pieces of material tight together. We've got the 6-inch version of these, the 3 inches. They're the same thing, they're just 6 inches long. I probably use these more often than 3 inches just because you can use them this way to make your fold and to whatnot, but you can also turn them on the side, and now you have like a 3-inch, 2.5-inch deep jaw that you can stick up for when you're doing like deep folds. I use these in the gable video as well, so if you wanted to check that out, you'll see how all these tools get used, other than the crimpers really. We've got our standard straight square, nothing fancy about it. We use these for majority of our flashing details because it's a lot easier to remember small side, big side than remembering exact measurements. So this is an inch, this is an 1.5 inches. If you look at any other videos and you see me using this, you'll see that I swap it both sides, and then you can kind of figure out that that's an inch mark, that's an 1.5 inch mark. We've also got our combi square. This is pretty useful. It's you can adjust the distance of your measurements. So if you're going to make like a 3-inch scribe, you adjust it to 3 inches there, and then you can just slide it up and down, make your scribe mark. It's got a 45-degree angle on the side there, so if you need to mark a 45-degree. You've also got a little level bubble in there, so if you've got to make any plumb lines, like when we do our fascia caps or fascia trims, it's quite handy for that. We've got our 9-inch seamers. These are from Midwest, so these are the only tools I have from Midwest, I think, but they don't get used very often, but they're quite good when you need it. They're huge, which is great. We've got our rivet poppers. Don't actually know who these are by, but it's pretty straightforward, standard manual rivet popper. We use these when we've got rivets to do. We've got our folding bar. So this one's a 12-inch by Wiss. We usually use like an 18-inch. I can't remember the brand. I don't have my 18-inch on hand, but we just use the 18-inch because it's more convenient. It's just easier to work with. And last but not least, my favorite tool, we've got this thing. This is an edge roller. This is by Malco. So this is the Malco ER3 edge roller. We use these when we're rolling the edge of our panels. I've used these to make flashings sometimes. We use these for a lot, actually. They're quite nice. The unique thing about this guy is you can drop the middle roller down, so you can actually make curved bends with this. So it's quite good. You can fold up to, I think, 4 inches on this, which is pretty sweet. It's more than enough to do anything that we really use it for. But this is a really handy tool to have. They're not super cheap, but I think they're about $600 or something around there. But yeah, they're quite handy to have. So I think that's the majority of our hand tools. I haven't really covered any of the basics, which are tape measure, stuff like that, you know, the usual things that you need in the trades. I hope you guys liked the video. If you found that useful at all, feel free to leave a like, comment on things that you might want to see us go more into depth with. If you want to see us do anything specific, leave a comment as well. Don't forget to subscribe, follow us on Instagram, and have a great day.